Anyways, hello everyone, and welcome to the Hylian Gamescast episode 66. Our topic of discussion today is, why did everyone used to hate the Wind Waker? Now, we've seen this kind of go away, especially recently with Wind Waker HD. Everyone's been praising the art style. There's even been a ton of people come out saying they hate the Wind Waker HD art style because it ruins how great the original Wind Waker looks, which is kind of odd for me. I can see that look on Ilya's face there. To me, I think they just took the look, made it a bit brighter, but there's people that said they had too much bloom and everything, so... Anyways, the point is...
There's no pleasing some people.
When Wind Waker was originally released, everyone hated it so much. Now, personally, I liked it. I know a lot of other people liked it, which is why it's so great now. A lot of people look back, have fond memories of it, but when it first released, there were tons of people, even in Japan, but it was mostly the Western audience, like America, Canada, Mexico, even parts of Europe, like Germany, England. Everyone basically hated the art style, so much so that while they were in the middle of developing Wind Waker 2, not Phantom Hourglass, which was a direct sequel to Wind Waker, but an actual Wind Waker 2 for the GameCube, while they were in the middle of development, I think interviews say that the president of Nintendo for Nintendo of America got all of the feedback from all of the different countries, like from North America and parts of Europe, and sent the feedback to Japan. And Japan instantly stopped development of Wind Waker HD and made the art style literally the complete opposite because fans hated it so much. Now, there's probably tons of people that have already commented that you always loved the art style. Again, so did we. So don't hate on us for saying this. We're just saying that people used to think this. So we ended up getting Twilight Princess, which was again literally the exact opposite art style. It was dark, gloomy, realistic instead of like bright, colorful, and cartoony. So yeah, I just think it's odd. Why did people hate it? Well, whenever Space World 2000 came, I'll have this up on the screen for people that's watching the edited version and not the live podcast version, but there was at Space World 2000, the same year, probably before Majora's Mask even came out, which they even had the Hero Shield in this demo. They had Adult Link fighting against Ganondorf in the style of Ocarina of Time, but it was updated to graphics that the GameCube was capable of, as opposed to the standard polygonal look that you have from the Nintendo 64's Ocarina of Time. So it was this more updated version, more realistic looking version of an Ocarina of Time boss fight where Link and Ganondorf were in an actual sword battle. It wasn't just knocking the ball back and forth like you get in the final game. It's literally a sword fight. And so everyone was looking forward to this, and then we ended up getting Majora's Mask. And after working on Ocarina of Time and then Majora's Mask, which had the same art style, they worked on that demo that they showed off, which was just a better version of that same art style. They ended up deciding, since they'd already done 3 things in that art style, even Oracle of Ages and Oracle of Seasons that came out, the artwork for it was in a similar art style as well. Minish Cap also used a similar art style. Just talking about the artwork specifically, obviously the games were like 8 and 16-bit, 32-bit, whatever, but just the artwork was all in the Ocarina of Time style. So when it came time for Wind Waker, Nintendo was tired of that same art style. They wanted to move on. And one of the developers just doodled the Toon version of Link, and they ended up liking it so much they went with it. And then whenever they showed off at Space World 2001 the following year, everyone was expecting, oh, we're going to see more of that awesome Ocarina of Time 3 game, or whatever it could have been. But instead they got this cartoony thing where Link has like tons of emotions on his face. There's these weird boar people chasing him with spears, and basically everyone hated it. The exact opposite of what happened when they showed off Twilight Princess at E3 a few years later, because whenever they showed that off, everyone like stood up, cheered. It was crazy. It was like the best applause and support that any game had ever seen at E3. You can find videos of it online, but with Wind Waker it was the exact opposite, and people hated it so much that the sequel got cancelled, and they ended up making Twilight Princess and Phantom Hourglass. So that is the story of basically why people hated Wind Waker. Presumably, if Majora's Mask would have never released, then without working on a new game with the same art style as Ocarina of Time, Nintendo may have not gotten tired of the art style, and then Wind Waker would have been possibly a game that looked like what we've seen with the GameCube Zelda tech demo, as opposed to the cartoony art style. But because we got Majora's Mask, we got the Wind Waker. So, what do you guys think about all this? Do you remember any of the hate long ago when Wind Waker released? I know a lot of people didn't have computers or internet way back then. I know I didn't, but I still had friends who had a computer with internet, and I remember like going online and seeing it, and even one of my cousins, I had him over, and I was playing the Zelda Collector's Edition, which had the Wind Waker demo. And when people, or whenever he would play it and like the bomb would explode and it would make like the cartoony swirls, he was like, this looks stupid. So even firsthand, I met people who were not a fan of the graphics of the Wind Waker, the cartoony art style. So
Yep. My eldest brother refused to play it. I mean, he's more of an Xbox person anyway, as is my other brother. They're more Xbox, PlayStation, but he refused to play it because he was like, that's not how Zelda is supposed to look. My
It's like,
other
no,
brother
'cause
was
that's
like,
Link.
Supposed to look.
Zelda's the
Yeah, I know.
princess. Link's the... No, it's a bad
Well,
joke, I'm sorry.
then my other brother, who's like, he'll play like Nintendo games, like if we're out and playing them, like Mario Party and Mario Kart. For him, he was the one that got the game. It was technically his GameCube, and he actually bought Animal Crossing as well, so he's responsible for my crazy love of that. Anyway, when he got it, he was like, it plays like Zelda and it's fun. What do I care? He's never been a fan of the lore or anything like that. He's just like, I just want a fun game. That's all he cares about. Whereas for me, even though I had seen and played a little bit of Ocarina of Time and Majora's Mask, I was so young, I wasn't super into it. Wind Waker was the one that I was like, whoa, this is a good game and I really, really like it. And I think there's actually comments from the developers saying that Wind Waker was the one that got a lot of their like wives to start playing. Their wives were like, wow, this is really pretty looking, and they wanted to start playing, and they started playing Zelda games after that. And I'm like, I can see why. It's I don't want to say it's more inviting than other Zelda games, but because it has the lighter look to it, even though it has very dark moments, story-wise.
Mm-hmm.
It is a very inviting game. The music, everything about it, which is why it's one of my top 3 favorite games. But yeah, I do remember the hate because you just had like layers of it in my family. You had my eldest brother who was like, no way, that's not Zelda as I want it to be. My other brother who was like, it's fun, what do I care? And me who was like, wow, I really, really like this. I like the other games too, but this I really like. I like Twilight Princess 2 a lot, but you know, I'm glad we have both. They're both great.
Yeah, and with Wind Waker, a lot of people don't realize this, but Wind Waker was the game that started, basically. It would have happened eventually, likely, but I look at it as the game that began all of the different art styles for the Zelda series, because aside from Ocarina of Time and Majora's Mask, you never really see games that reuse the exact same art style. And that only happened because they had a bunch of stuff left over from Ura Zelda, and they only had a year to make the game. So with Ocarina of Time, Majora's Mask, I look at them as like manga style Zelda games. And then Wind Waker, you get cartoony. Twilight Princess, you get realistic. Skyward Sword, you get the painting. Breath of the Wild, you get an anime. So literally with every Zelda game, each one looks different from all of the rest, and it's one of the only video game series that ever does this. With like Call of Duty or Final Fantasy, it always looks the exact same, just better, like a little bit more detailed, a little bit more realistic or whatever. It never completely changes. Even Mario games, Metroid games, all of the Metroid Primes just looked more and more detailed. All of the Mario games look very, very similar. Um, but with The Legend of Zelda, like, you could look at two different games, like Wind Waker and Skyward Sword, or Wind Waker and Twilight Princess, and it looks completely different. But you can still look at it and be like, "Oh, that's Link, that's Zelda, that's Ganondorf." So, really cool. And even
And
with,
sorry.
oh, I was gonna say, even with Ganondorf's appearance, like in Twilight Princess and Ocarina of Time, it's not just the art style that's different. Ganondorf is like big and muscular and stuff in those games, but then Wind Waker, he's a bit chubbier. So it's like, even though the art style is completely different, even though he physically looks completely different, he's shorter, he's bigger, he's less muscular, but yet you can still look at it and be like, yeah, that's Ganondorf.
Mm-hmm.
So,
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
And I personally think, as much as I love what they fixed with Twilight Princess HD, sorry, I thought I heard something really weird. I don't know what that is. Okay, sorry. Wind Waker seems to have aged a little better. I know that whenever going back to Twilight Princess very, very recently, like a few days ago, I think it was like Christmas Day, I went back to it. It was very jarring. I still love the game. I still love playing it. I love the music, and I love playing it. But going back to Wind Waker is never quite as jarring to go back to after a while, because you're just like, oh yeah, Wind Waker. It can stand the test of time a little bit better. That doesn't make Twilight Princess a bad game. I'm just saying in defense of the graphics.
There are even games that release now that use a similar art style to the Wind Waker, like Ni no Kuni is a game that uses the Wind Waker art style, to where it's just cel-shaded cartoon graphics, but it's on the PlayStation 4 and like the newer generation of consoles. So it uses the power of current generation console to make it look even more like you're watching like a cartoon or an anime or something. So with that said, it only looks like slightly better than what Wind Waker HD looks like on a console that's a lot less powerful compared to the PlayStation 4. So even though like one is on a console that uses a lot more graphical power, because of the art style itself, it doesn't necessarily look a lot better, because even the original looks great. To whereas if you go with the realistic art style like Twilight Princess, when you make something realistic and then you make something realistic on a new generation of consoles, there is a huge difference, because you can add in a lot more detail and everything. But with Wind Waker, the entire point of the art style is basically the lack of the detail, because everything's like a solid cel shaded color. So I think that's why it looks so great. It's easy.
Yeah. I think part of, further to your point, Ilya, about it, sort of the jarring nature, going back to a game like Twilight Princess, is like when we think of Wind Waker, we remember it and think of it as this cartoony game, and that's how it's always been. When Twilight Princess came out, it was like, okay, this is what's realistic graphics for the time, but that bar of what is considered realistic graphics is constantly moving, right? So the game stays here, but that bar keeps getting raised. So if you spend all this time and you're going up with this bar, and then you go back to this game and it's low, it's like a below bar then suddenly. Versus this game that you never expected to be realistic in the first place. There's that jarring feeling isn't there.
Yeah.
It's just like it's exactly how you remember it then. And I think that's part of why Wind Waker's aged so much better than Twilight Princess, in my opinion, graphically speaking. This is strictly talking about visuals. I remember when it would like being also have a similar thing. Some of my siblings complaining about it, and lots of people at school complaining about it. I was still in when it would like also have a similar thing. Some of my siblings complaining about it, and lots of people at school complaining about it. I was still in when it would like better, and people who were like, well, when we some of my siblings complaining about it, and lots of people at school skeptical at first, like right up until I started playing the game, and then I did not have a worry about the graphics at all because it's still Zelda. It's still great. So
You can't help but love Wind Waker. It's so pretty, and the
It is.
music. I love the music.
Yeah, no, the music is really good, and I think one of the things Wind Waker has a lot of little attention to detail. Even just like the way the weather changes. Weather does not change all that much in other 3D Zelda games, but it changes a lot in Wind Waker. And like even just like the way how strong the waves of the ocean are when the weather changes and things just drops on the water. All these little details are fantastic in that game. And I think the biggest thing for me that I will think a lot of people most fondly remember is Wind Waker. Unlike, I think, not to say that other Zelda games don't have this, but Wind Waker has this great vibe of adventure. Like there's this great sense of adventure that is not as present in some of the other Zelda games. Not to say this not there. Twilight Princess has its great moments too, but Wind Waker has, I don't know, it just is like this is an epic adventure. You're going off and exploring and adventuring. And Twilight Princess is like more again, and this is not a dig at Twilight Princess, is a great game in its own right, but it has more of a sense of like adventuring. And Twilight Princess is like more again, and this is this big overarching adventure. A great game in its own right, but it has more of a sense of like adventuring. And Twilight Princess is like more again, and this big overarching adventure. A great game in its own right, but it has more of a sense of like adventuring. And Twilight Princess is like more again, and this
when they raise their hands up, like your elbow is supposed to go to the top of your head, but like their hands go to here.
His hands like here.
Yeah.
Especially when he yawns, he's like, eh.
The proportions are really high.
I bet whenever they first made it, his hands couldn't do that, so they got to the scene where you have to like hold up the Rito girl, whatever her name is. And it's so like you have to hold her up, and they're like, wait, his hands can't go above his head. So they're like, make his hands longer.
Just make it a little bit longer.
Just stretch him.
Whereas like Ocarina of Time Link, picking up Princess Ruto is like actually all the way up here.
It's true.
Also, speaking of adventure, a little bit longer.
Just stretch him.
Whereas like Ocarina of Time Link, picking up Princess Ruto is like actually all the way up here.
It's true.
Also, speaking of adventure, a little bit longer.
Just stretch.
Whenever I hear it, it reminds me of Pokemon.
I love the like actually all the way up here.
It's true.
Also, speaking of adventure, a little bit longer.
Just
whenever I hear it, it reminds me of Pokemon.
Does Lullaby and some of the other songs. But then it has its own unique stuff as well. I love Apple says I love how expressive and full of like Wind Waker Link is too. I missed in the other games where Link is more stoic. So one interesting thing is that in Wind Waker they said they went with that art style as well because they wanted to be able to have Link show more emotion. Which is almost exactly what they said with Breath of the Wild, where they said that they felt if they gave him too much emotion, then people wouldn't be able to relate with him. And it's like, it's the exact opposite of what you said about the Wind Waker. You purposefully wanted him to show more emotion. That way, when something happens in the game and the player gets excited, Link can show that he's excited instead of where like something crazy happens and then Link just looks at it with a blank face. It's like, yeah, you can put your emotion on their face when it's blank, but it's better if something spooky happens and Link looks like he's scared, or if something awesome happens and Link's like, oh my gosh. Like in Skyward Sword had the perfect moments to where like going into the Earth Temple or one of the fire dungeons, as Link's walking down the steps after he first opens the door, all of the heat's rushing out. So like Link's covering up his face and like making like his face looks walking down the steps after he first opens the door, all of the heat's rushing out. So like Link's covering up his face and like making like his face and be like, yeah, it's another dungeon.
Yeah.
Like, what do we get to kill this time? Is it another Dodongo? I'm full already.
Also, Wind Waker Link meows.
He does.
That's true.
He does. And he says,
come on, on!
Yeah, come on. Yeah, so Wind Waker Link actually talks. Stop expecting Japan to make sense, Jesse. What?
Good point.
What's this? Show.
I could chime in on the Mr. Mime chat. A little bit delayed.
Melon speed runs. Like, are you talking about this face? And it has Link like falling after Zelda pushes him off, and he's like, "I don't have a loft wing, you crazy woman." He also said earlier, did you know that Mako's sword from Pirate Stealing Bombs cutscene has a very unusual texture? No, I did not. I'll look that up.
I need to take a look for that. I'm gonna
Mako's sword.
to Google it.
I had a dream about the Skyward Sword. I think I told y'all about it a few weeks ago.
Mako from Samurai Jack. What was your Wind Waker story, Ilya?
No, Skyward Sword. I had that theme was one of my dreams like last week or 2 weeks ago or something. Remember I said Bruce kept flirting with me and I was really confused.
Yeah.
I was just like,
were you Zelda in the dream?
No, I was friends with her though.
Oh, okay.
She and I, that Zelda and I would
Did
get
she
along
get jealous? Because, like, she did have, like, the most popular guy in school flirting with her, but now that you're there, he's not flirting with her, so she's, like, taking away all my fun. It's like, yeah, it sucks when he's always mean to people, but when he flirts with me, it makes me feel better. And now you're here, and he doesn't do that. Go away. Maybe I'll push you off of Skyloft.
I did fall off Skyloft and was trying to call my loft wing and nothing was happening. Link saved me.
The real... Oh, Link saved you. Okay. I was gonna say, like, maybe the cool guy saved you.
I had a purple loft wing, though. We eventually found it. And I had a purple loft wing, and I was like, this is heckin' cool. I'd prefer pink, but, you know.
This sounds really cool. I can't find Mako's sword. I'm sorry.
I'm just pulling up the cutscene.
Yeah, I tried looking for
in the cutscene. It has the thing. I'm just gonna. I mean, I watched it at 2 times speed here. Let's see if we can find this unusual texture.
You could tell us what it is, Mr. Melons.
Yeah, tell us. Is it a melon texture?
Let's see. DM'd it to you. You won't find it on Google. It's an exclusive bit just for you. Wink. Okay.
What?
I assume you. Okay, so I'm on Discord with video chat, so I can't look at Discord, but I can look on my phone.
Use your phone. It's not in the cutscene there, or what? I'm confused about that. This sounds like if I can't find it in the cutscene, does that mean that this is going to be a boundary break thing?
Okay, so Melon, do you mean that it uses the same texture as that second picture? Like it's the same color and texture and stuff? Is that what you mean?
What's the picture though?
Let me send it to you guys. Alright. Now check check the chat.
I'm checking the chat.
Me too.
It looks like a sword.
Yeah, but like the second picture. Like I think he meant that it uses the... Oh, okay. So look what he says in the chat. Like it's the raw image. So it uses the same...
That's kind of funny. Like it just looks like a normal sword, but then it's like, oh, it's a... Oh, that's neat. It's a GameCube logo.
You broke the secret.
I broke the secret. No! No, delete it from the podcast. Delete me. Delete me. Ah!
Whoa, he actually left. Hi, Ilya.
I'm so confused.
I like your Ravenclaw.
I have brought shame to my family.
Someone in the chat said I could pass for Zelda's sister, and I was like, that would be an interesting story if Zelda actually had a sister, and she becomes the villain because she doesn't have the Triforce of Wisdom.
We did just make a video about someone potentially being Zelda's sister.
I've seen that theory too. And then, I mean, Zelda did have a brother who was not very great.
Yeah.
Was that Zelda 2?
That's Zelda 2's backstory.
Did you learn that from the video too?
No, I already knew
Oh,
that.
yeah. A lot of people forget that
knew.
Link. Well, a lot of people forget there was like a prince in Hyrule. They always just think like,
Never.
I'm glad to catch you live, Jesse. Thank you, Eugene. The person who used to at all of my brother's basketball games, because he played basketball for like 20 years. Through like from elementary school, like as soon as he could begin in 3rd grade, all the way to like past college, he played basketball. So,
Wow.
but the guy that used to like keep all the scores and the rebounds and who passed the ball and who did this and who did that, his name is Eugene, and he was the guy that would always like keep track of everything.
But now that he's caught you live, Jesse,
Yeah.
it's time to die.
No. All right. So back to Wind Waker. One ironic thing is like a lot of people look at it, it's like, oh, it's too childish for me, and I'm like, it literally has the most brutal ending ever. Link. So in Ocarina of Time, Link stabs Ganon in the face. That's fine. It's a beast demon king person. But this is just a human. He jumps in the air like 50 feet and comes down and like stabs the sword like all the way through his skull, his throat, his neck, his chest. And then he's just like, all right, give me my bubbles. And then he just floats to the surface.
Bubbles. Now I'm thinking of finding you.
Yeah.
The wind.
And the king's like,
It blows.
yeah, the king's wish is stupid too. He's like, allow these people to find like
Give them hope.
yeah, to find a new kingdom or whatever. And it's like, no, just be like, hey, take all this like give us the old Hyrule back. You know?
But then again, you would uproot everyone that's so used to the living that they have now with the islands.
They could just
so
move
be
to the
let's
ocean.
just go with what we have.
What would all the fishermen do?
Well, fish, right?
You can't fish if you take the ocean away.
You don't take the whole ocean away. You just like
Take it away. No more ocean.
And then you force the Rito to de-evolve.
No
well,
more ocean.
They did it once. they can do it again.
I mean,
No.
Breath of the Wild has both, so.
Yeah. But then like there's the thing that hints that like the Zora in Breath of the Wild aren't the original Zora. They like came from a different land. If you read those text blocks that are like it
Yeah.
gives the history of the Zora, it mentions that like long ago the Zora evolved into the Rito and then like a new tribe came in or whatever. So
Those Zora are huge.
it makes me
They're the
think
big
that
boys.
like the new Zora coming in are from like the Zora from the other timeline like merging in. Is how I took it.
When the old Dragon Break thing happens, you know, because that's a thing, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well,
But no, that's
it's debated whether or not Breath of the Wild has one. People can be on whatever side, but it is actually confirmed that the Zelda series has had dragon breaks because of Majora's
Yep.
Mask. So like it is confirmed that the series does do it, which is why I had to like throw away one theory a long time ago.
I'm sorry.
No, it wasn't that. It was someone wrote it. It's like if you toast bread and then you eat cereal, you can't have both if you don't have any. And I'm like, this doesn't. No. It was stupid.
What?
It was really really stupid. You know the one that I had you read the Zelda lines for, and then I had Connor read the actual theory.
Yeah.
I wrote that because this other theory that someone had given me was so horrible. I used none of it.
So you wrote like an anti-theory?
Yeah. I was originally trying to correct it. And then
Yeah.
no, like at first I think like I was confident in the person. So like he sent the theory and then I just sent it to Connor and he recorded it and he sent it back and I was listening to it and I was like, did he read what was in the script? So I went back and looked at the script and I was like, no wonder Andy in the Chamber of Sages never used this script because it was so horrible.
Yep.
And then I just rewrote the entire thing and actually used interviews and stuff so it made sense because the way this guy was talking, he literally had that example. If you eat toast in one timeline and you eat cereal in another timeline and then in the third timeline you eat nothing, it's impossible to have eaten all of it and blah blah blah. And it's like, no,
That sounds like they're just not being open-minded.
yeah. That's like,
about.
that's literally the entire purpose of Majora's Mask, is like you do these things to get a certain mask, and then you travel back in time, yet you still have that mask despite not doing those things. You just don't have rupees or arrows or anything.
What it sounds like is when there's this fun game my friend and I used to play.
Oh, did you
on your
guys used to
iPhone,
travel
when you
back in
start
time?
typing, no.
Okay.
On the iPhone, when you start typing a sentence, it gives suggestions. There's like 3 suggestions for words, and you just keep hitting the middle button to make a sentence. That's what it sounds like this person did. They typed like, this theory is, and then just kept hitting the
Like,
middle button.
breakfast, toast, cereal, ate nothing.
Exactly.
Basically. It was, yeah. And then...
I hope they're not watching this stream right now.
No, after that, that's when I started just writing my own stuff again, exclusively, instead of using things that other people suggest. Because it wasn't Hyrule or Low-Reliant Historian. It wasn't him. It was just someone else that, like, they gave me control of the Chamber of Sages, this guy was like, I used to write for the Chamber, but they never used my stuff, but I still have the script.
If you wrote for them and then they never used what you wrote, that means you did not write for them.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
That means
you tried to,
but
they decided not to use it for some
almost
reason.
did. It's like I wouldn't say that I edited for certain channels that I was in cahoots with or talked to just because I talked to them.
You edited the video for the Chamber that never got used, and then
that's true.
I had to buy it from the person who wrote it.
But I did edit some other videos for them as well, though. So I could still say that I did work for the Chamber Stages.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, it would be like me putting on a resume, I was basically played this role because I was considered for this role because I auditioned.
Yeah, but not the same thing.
Yeah.
I basically played Laura in the Glass Menagerie because I went to an audition for the Glass Menagerie and I was definitely considered for Laura.
Mm-hmm. I'm George Clooney. I am George Clooney. that's me.
No, I'll send you guys the original script later. The only thing I used from it wasn't even something that person had written, because it was just a quote from the Japanese version. So it was just like text from the game that you could just Google and get, was the only thing that I used, because it was the only thing that actually made sense, because it was the only thing that actually came from the game. Because like I was reading it and I was like, this person just didn't even play the game. Like, this doesn't make sense at all.
But Jesse, if Toad wears his pajamas and he's actually an ant in a mushroom hat.
Toad has no head, right?
Toad has no head. He's actually 100 spiders in a man
Daniel is
costume.
frozen in his own timeline.
Oh no. Oh no.
No, you're not frozen to me.
I'm not.
All right, so Wind Waker. Does anyone have any final things before we move on to the Zelda questions? Everyone in the chat, this is where you can post your Zelda questions to get them answered. So get them ready so we don't have something where we're just sitting here waiting for questions, because that sucks. All right.
Because sometimes we get questions and they're weird ones that we answered.
Yeah.
Yeah, sometimes none of our patrons
Yeah, they send us a few dollars, but they don't send in the questions or ask for the things.
Dude, take advantage.
But sometimes we get too many questions.
Because Ilya got super excited
middle ground
when we used hers.
It's true.
Oh yeah, mine would get used a lot actually.
Yeah,
I would always wait
you
till I
didn't
had
put
a
stupid questions.
Oh yeah, or questions we've already answered 100 times.
What do you want for the next Zelda game?
We've already answered that
hook
so many
shots.
times. Please don't ask.
We can only say hook shots so many times.
Or dungeons.
Underwater
Dungeons.
exploration.
Yeah, well, we've done that one a lot. Yeah.
Ilya, do you want to do the intro?
Bananas.
The intro?
You
Sure.
want bananas. New member.
Welcome, new member.
I don't know what that means.
What does that mean?
I've never actually heard
Melon
of it.
Speedrun, what did you just do?
I don't know what that means.
Yeah, what does that mean, new
What
member?
did you do, man? What are you a member of? What are you a member of?
What did you do? We've never seen that before.
That's a new one.
Did you become a Patreon? Is that why it says that?
Does it?
What
Does Patreon, is that linked to your YouTube chat?
I don't know.
In YouTube chat.
You gotta Google it.
you broke the system. No, he's not a Patreon.
I posted in Discord. Did you post it in Discord in the Zelda mailbag chat in Discord? Let's see.
I can't look because
I broke my tooth. I have no idea what I did. Help.
What did you do? What did you really do? Like, I don't... Tell us. Did you...
Tell us, what did you do? Oh, no.
But look at what
I
it
have
says
a badge
at the
now.
top. It's like going down.
He's running out of time.
So, Jin in the chat, also, congratulations on your almost newborn baby. You looked amazing in the picture you posted. But did you guys see the picture? She posted it in the selfies, arts, and pics. It's just like her with her her pregnant stomach. I paid sub to you.
I'm pretty sure that's a picture of a cat.
He subscribed. And it gave me shits. I think I know what you mean. So like you can sponsor a YouTube channel on YouTube. I guess. You're apparently the first person to ever do this, so we don't know what's going on. We have Patreon supporters. That's what we were talking about. But this works too, I guess. I don't know what it means though. Anyways, Ilya, would you like to start the thing?
The intro
Also,
for the
Jen,
mailbag.
get your question ready. Colin, we might answer that as well.
Mailbag stuff. Spro's Nest asked about posting in Discord. Make sure you guys post it in the hashtag Zelda Mailbag chat on Discord. I'm gonna also post that because I noticed there's people putting their questions in, but just in the social channel. So if you go to Discord, on the left side of where all the channels are, it should be under General. There's the social channel. There's selfies, arts, and pictures. There's the podcast channel, and there's a Zelda Mailbag channel. That's where you're going to want to put your questions there. I see Spro's Nest is already typing, so I'm just going to put that.
If you want to, Melon, you can be a part of the next podcast, because that's a Patreon thing, so...
Yes.
Alright, so everyone get your questions ready. Ilya?
Get them ready!
Yep, I am ready. Are y'all ready?
No, I'm out of Gatorade.
Oh. When do I start?
Do you want to hear my ASMR?
Yes. Ooh. That is some ASMR.
It sounds like people doing with their mouth open, which I...
That is also an ASMR.
And I'm just going to scoop up some of these questions from the Discord and put them in our
and the chat.
Google Doc.
Dawn.
Yeah, a lot of people are asking.
Dawn says,
chat,
Jesse,
actually.
Wild Horse says hi. Wild Horse, for those who don't know, we gave a shout out at the very beginning because she was in a coma. Now she's better. So, yes, we love Wild Horse. One of our biggest fans, best fans.
Yes.
Yeah.
So very, very happy that she's getting better. This is her nurse. Well, hello, nurse. Nurse Tina.
Hello.
That's very kind of you to like text and stuff for her.
Yeah.
All right, Ilya, start. So we can stop goofing off and
ready.
get to why people are watching. Goofing.
Okay.
Is what we've been doing for the past 30 minutes. Yeah.
Y'all ready?
Yes.
Okay.
Hey everyone, it's me again, Ilya Rose. I just wanted to say thank you so much for watching this video. And you know what? If you're a fan of videos like this, you should totally subscribe and give this video a like and comment below to let us know what type of videos you would like to see us create in the future. And if you would really like to support all of us here at the GameOverJesse channel, please consider purchasing a GameOverJesse t-shirt or becoming a Patreon at patreon.com/GameOverJesse, where you can receive many rewards, such as getting shoutouts, having any topic or theory that you select discussed on the podcast or made into its own video, having your question answered, joining on as a guest on the podcast, and playing with us during our Twitch live streams at twitch.tv/GameOverJesse, and much, much more.